Cineboys to Cinemen, episode 87.
87.
Hope you're well, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Been a while.
A very long time, yes.
Yeah. How long?
Couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks.
Maybe a bit longer. Superman has still... People are still talking about it. So
Yeah.
I think that's okay. Yeah.
That justifies the gap.
Yeah. We've been working hard on other things, other projects, exciting projects.
Busy boys.
Yeah.
So we thought, it's been a while, we'll come back. And in classic Cineboy style, we will talk about an independent film that's Cinema Run has entered.
Yes.
So-
yeah.
So even if you did think,
You can't watch it.
You can't watch it. I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine it'll be on streaming relatively soon.
Yes.
It
I
has
think
that
so.
vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah. It'll be an Amazon thing, I think.
Although apparently, to go back to Superman briefly, that's going to be on streaming very shortly.
Yeah, they're doing that.
45 days after a cinema run. It's
Mad.
crazy.
Yeah, 28 years later, it was like a month after its release as well.
Well, kiss my sausage.
Indeed.
So the film, Friendship.
Timothy Robinson.
Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
A kind of departure from what we've been sort of watching recently, or, well, in terms of the episodes that we've released anyway.
Yeah, we've been focusing on kind of blockbuster fodder. Fodder's a harsh word, but this is, this is like something that I think, because originally it was released in like 2024, I think. So it's one of those slow burners that will kind of permeate or percolate in the kind of public consciousness in a low way.
Yeah, it's definitely not a film that would play in a multiplex, certainly in England anyway.
No, definitely not.
No.
The only reason I've even heard of the guy, Tim Robinson, is through friends of mine who are more astute with sort of American comedians.
Yeah, American.
I literally would not have heard of him had it not been for them. So,
No.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And a film that explores friendship, masculine friendship.
Yeah.
So it felt like a good opportunity to talk about that in film a little bit.
Yes, we haven't really touched on it before.
No.
Fight Club's probably come up at some point.
Yeah, and we spoke about action films a lot.
I think Fight Club's a pretty classic example of that is sort of made its way into the mainstream and is misinterpreted quite a lot, but it does have that thread that runs through it. I'll try not to bang on about it too much because I think it's quite well trodden ground with regards to how it explores those themes. But yeah, just to mention it first off, I guess.
Get it out of the way in the intro.
Get out of the way in the intro.
Yeah. I like it. Right. Shall we?
Let's do it.
Questing the cinematic void.
Okay then, so masculinity in film.
Ooh.
Yeah, this feels like quite a big one, and I
think so.
probably should have done more research.
No.
More about the movies
It's
that
raw.
we're probably going to talk about.
Yeah.
It's
Straight off
raw
the bat.
stuff.
Yeah.
Straight off the cuff. The kind of stuff that we'll regret the moment we release it.
There'll be some texts on the way back. You'll be like, maybe cut that bit out about Fight Club.
Yeah, I do that. I do that every episode. Every morning, I wake up the day after an episode when I'm walking to work or just doing something. I'll think, shouldn't have said that.
Oh, okay, mate. I don't
I
mind
do that
at
every
all.
time. And it feels like this episode's going to be rife with that,
Yeah,
considering
yeah.
how ill-prepared I am to discuss what is a very lofty, well-mined topic.
I can't. No.
Certainly in the world of film.
I think it's quite a nice. It's almost a feature of the podcast. Just like, okay, remember.
Ineptitude.
No. Just remember to cut these bits out. Sometimes I forget occasionally, and we'll have to reevaluate and re-upload, etc.
Yeah, well, there you go. Look, a little window into the process there.
Yeah.
So, mentioned it in the intro, I think, whilst we've never spoken about it explicitly, we have obviously mentioned a lot of kind of films and genres that become synonymous with it.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about action movies a lot.
Commando and
Commando,
all that kind of stuff.
yeah. And it's funny that it's obviously something that just runs through a lot of these movies, particularly like action, war, gangster films. These, it's always interesting to me that obviously a lot of these films, if you think like, for example, Scorsese's gangster films are very much a kind of study
Yes.
of that kind of masculinity in the conditions of organised crime. Or if you think away from Scorsese briefly, like, studies of masculinity in warfare.
Okay.
It's almost like, a man's duty.
Yes, right.
To sort of to protect or to fight.
Yeah. Brothers in Arms.
Brothers in
right?
Arms, yeah. Like it's kind of like it seems to dovetail really well with the kind of the soldier or the gangster.
Yeah.
You know, and it's always interesting to me that these films are always really popular with men.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that obviously these genres are exclusively, you know, and deliberately marketed towards men. I mean, there are definite examples of where that is the case, particularly war and action films. But,
Yeah.
you know, I think that, and even, you know, gangster films too. But I think it's interesting that even the kind of most successful examples, which, you know, a lot of the time are a little bit more kind of, I guess, penetrative in their kind of analysis or even critical, are still kind of popular in that way.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you said you didn't want to talk about it, but, you know, like Fight Club and like American Psycho being the definitive examples of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that despite that, and you could say Wolf of Wall Street, again, another film we talk about a lot in this kind of context. You know, films that obviously have a sort of an idea that is warped and distorted by, you know, the kind of movements that almost use them as, I guess, cultural banners for their movement.
Yeah, like manifestos.
Yeah. I mean, that's an extreme example of it, I guess. But I mean more in the sense, like, you know,
people might...
They're always really popular with blokes. Like, men, you know, older men love Goodfellas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think... And also, like, I remember my school, like, Fight Club, all the boys talked about Fight Club. But they didn't... I don't think most of them knew it was based on a book.
Right.
And I think the main reason why it was popular was because of the fighting and the idea of a fight club and the idea... Because the film, at surface level, posits to be about guys who get together and release their, you know, their sort of pent-up rage and...
That they can't express in their kind of day-to-day life.
Yeah, through the medium of fighting. Whereas what it's actually about is the idea of how pathetic and stupid that is. But,
yeah.
Like, it's kind of... It does inhabit that space for a bit, and you kind of are drawn into the world, but the third act, like, crumbles it to the ground. Like...
Literally.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's a strange... I mean, that last shot, like, you could argue that it's... I think I read this somewhere. This isn't my own opinion, but it's kind of like these rigid buildings becoming flaccid at the end.
Yeah,
a lot of kind of obvious iconography there.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, obviously that's not what we were talking about at school. We were talking about the bit where Jared Leto gets the shit kicked out of him, right? And like, that was the kind of the idea behind that. And then, you know, you mentioned Goodfellas as well. I think the three-dimensional nature of that film is quite often lost in a lot of discussion about it. You just, oh yeah, I love Goodfellas, mate, love it. I love you know, and the bits they love isn't that they're not really, you know, taken at face value. They don't really convey the message that the film has, which, you know, perfectly illustrated by the last shot of him just being an absolute nobody in the middle of nowhere in the suburbs. Like, yeah, there's a definite vein of misinterpretation that comes with a lot of these films. Some of them don't need to be misinterpreted. I'm thinking like American Sniper. That's pretty much just like, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and a lot of war films, a lot of recent war films that don't really have that edge, don't really have that critical edge.
No.
But yeah, the most popular ones tend to be a lot more complicated than just like, blokey, you know, as opposed to like Green Street or whatever.
yeah. Even like the more overt action movies. I mean, you know, I think of all the genres previously mentioned, like action cinema is and has obviously made a lot of money by exclusively marketing itself to men. And I think it's because it has that kind of, like in war films and like in gangster films, there's almost kind of something about violence on screen, which seems to be kind of, I guess the fetishized nature of the violence is what's appealing. So there's something about the relationship between that and masculinity. And even like in things like Commando, like, I mean, I think I've said this before.
It was ages ago, mate.
It was ages ago.
Who cares?
Literally.
No,
you're right. You know, it feels to me that the people behind the camera were kind of setting up these ideas. Obviously, the film is still very much like, you know, the fetishized nature of the body. The body is, you know, an ideological tool. You know, it's very, you know, very well trodden sort of ground. But the idea that like Bennett, the baddie, in that net vest. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like there's a sort of homoerotic undertone that the people behind the camera were more aware of than like the people in front of it and the audiences who were watching it, specifically the men. It's almost like a way to kind of undermine it through the medium of the action film, and one of the most, and like it's one of its biggest stars of the time in Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I just think it's, I don't know, like I do think that, and I do love that movie, but that's sort of one of the reasons why, is because it has that kind of, there's a sort of wryness to it that is, as you know, kind of follows of what we're saying, that there's a message there that's kind of being either kind of well obscured or deliberately sort of ignored or sort of or
papered
retooled.
Over, yeah.
You know.
Oh man, no, you're right. I think that streak has kind of been lost with more recent action films, but certainly in the 80s, the kind of oiled up, brutish men. There's the homoeroticism is pretty apparent. I think the people behind the camera knew exactly what they were doing with that.
We're having sort of a resurgence of the everyman action hero again, in the sort of vein of like John McClane. So what's
John Wick and
Bob, is it Odenkirk's new film?
Nobody and Nobody 2. Yeah.
That feels like a continuation of, or the sort of resurrection of that idea, the kind of guy that you, or into a slightly lesser extent, because I think Denzel Washington, you know, he has that kind of aura about him, which is, no disrespect to old Bobby Boy, but it's a little bit more, you know, there's an aura there that Bob doesn't have.
Yeah.
But to a lesser extent, Equalizer. These are films about people that are unassuming.
Yeah, he's a Lyft driver in the
So they're like men that have kind of like got this shady backstory. Obviously, they work in kind of espionage or intelligence, and
as a result, down. Though.
They've given it all up, but that sort of like
skills are still
there, and all it takes is them is to sort of come across an element of misjustice, and it's kind of this masculine fantasy to kind of enact that, to combat that sort of sense of injustice that I think we all feel in our everyday lives.
Oh yeah,
and are totally powerless to do anything about. So in a way, I think maybe these kind of characters, particularly the more kind of grounded everymen, I say that in sort of quotation marks, so maybe a cipher for everyday masculine frustrations and the sort of power fantasies that we can't really enact in real life.
No, beyond maybe a strict email to Wessex Water or whatever.
And then when you send it, you go, why did I send that?
Yeah, they're not going to give a shit, are they? Referencing some kind of lawsuit that was taken
policy,
up again. You remember when you dumped all that water into the River Wye or whatever? Like, you remember that? They're not going to give a shit, are they? I have done this literally very recently.
Fair play.
Yeah. But that's as far as it went.
Man.
No, briefly. They just emailed back saying, sorry.
Well, that's it.
Your bill's 50 quid now. It was 32. Now it's 50. Sorry. Anyway, even then though, I think what you're saying is like totally accurate in the sense that there was John McClane, which was kind of weirdly appealing to a very particular sect of men, and then it might be more common in the 90s, the impending divorce and how the acts that take place over one night can change all that and make your wife fall in love with you all over again.
Through the acts of violence.
Yes, I know. All you need to do is gun down 50 German henchmen. and
if only it was that easy.
I'll jump right back into bed.
Take note, chaps.
So whereas obviously now it's a bit more feeding into the idea that you can resist the inevitable, I think.
Right.
Like in John Wick, it's someone kidnaps your dog or something, and then you could, or like in Nobody, it's just this kind of like the idea that you can be, and even like, do you remember that weird clip in that Guy Ritchie film, Colin Farrell having a go at those lads in the chip shop? That's the same idea, isn't it? Sticking it to the kind of thugs. That I think these films assume a lot of lesser men lives are governed by these sort of teenagers. And these thugs who kind of always always ready to nick your phone or something. And plays to that power.
Or they'll embarrass you, or
demasculate you in some way.
Exactly. And I think we probably would never admit that we all enact these kind of power fantasies. in our mind.
Oh yeah,
But
daily.
but we
Fucking 3 days later.
in the shower.
If only I had said.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do think there is something in that. I think that they provide a kind of sense, a sort of sense of catharsis.
Yeah. It's a strange form of public service, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it placates real life violence, which obviously is a lot more complicated.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, no, you're right. I do think those films are really, really pandering to the audience of just general men. Like I'm not having a go. Like it's all, these are all just like normal guys who are just trying to live their lives. I think it's okay to sort of think in those terms occasionally. To enact them is another story, but to have media that lets it do that for you with no kind of real life implication, I think it's all right. I think it's quite sweet, really, in an odd way.
Yeah, I sort of know what you mean.
Maybe not. Maybe there's a troublesome aspect of it that I haven't quite considered, but whatever. Yeah, I think it's all right.
Whatever.
Let's not talk about that.
But the films I think that we've picked, I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I've only got one really in my mind immediately, but
yeah, I've got a couple. Yeah,
they're not the kind of movies that I think serve that purpose necessarily.
No, these ones are more about men, basically, and the interactions with other men. Right, the kind of the idea that sort of male friendships can be sort of subtly very sweet, but outwardly maybe quite, reliant on toughness, perhaps, at surface level. I'm thinking specifically of like Banshees of Inisherin or something.
Right. I've not actually seen that.
Oh man, I'll break it down. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's quite sad actually.
Was it as polarizing as Three Billboards?
Less so. I think it was a lot more
thematically,
praised.
that was always going to be more polarizing.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot about in that film.
Understandably
quite troublesome. So. Yeah. It's very sympathetic towards some quite nasty people, which is kind of interesting, but would quite hard to stomach. But this one's a lot simpler in the sense that it's more just about a kind of these two drinking buddies, basically, and one of them. There's some spoilers ahead, but one of them effectively finds out he's got a terminal illness and he's not got long. And so there's a sort of classic reevaluation of he reevaluates his life, and one of the things he decides not to pursue any further is the friendship with his drinking buddy, because he realizes that a lot of the time he spent with him has been sort of superfluous and hasn't really been enriching. But the other guy, played by Colin Farrell, sees the jovial and kind of free-spirited nature of their friendship as enriching. Right. So he's really gutted when this man, and he doesn't tell him about his illness, he just says, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And there's like a weird, it kind of it examines the idea of like what is a friendship worth, and is the kind of chatting shit actually quite comforting, or is it just superfluous? And in the case of Banshees of Inisherin, one character thinks it is and the other thinks it isn't, and it's really sad. Like it's
right,
not,
yeah.
It's sad. It looks funny from the trailer, but it kind of isn't. And there's other stuff going on as well, and it's more about community. There's a lot of stuff in there about communication between people and misinterpretation of relationships. There's a kind of scene with Barry Keoghan which is quite sad. He's kind of, for lack of a better phrase, he plays quite a stereotypical sort of village simpleton, I guess is what you could say. It's not a very nice word, but like that is the way it's portrayed, really. Right. And then it becomes really tragic and horrible when the woman of the village, who is very, very kind to him and sort of
he misinterprets it as love,
and romance. And that's a really well-known clip, actually. It's probably the
I
best
think
scene
that's
in
the
the
one
film.
I've seen. Yeah.
The film's just about that, really, and I think it's fascinating. I love the idea that nonsense, like kind of chit chatting, is actually quite, people can hold it quite dear without realizing it. You know, you can walk home from the pub and think, I've had like a really good night. You're not going to admit it to anyone, but actually that's what it feels quite warm, and you feel it can kind of make your whole week almost. Something that you need. And then I think the film kind of examines that really, that sort of drinking buddies and how special are they, and is it reliant on alcohol or is it reliant on the actual dichotomy? I don't know. Yeah, it's a really special film. I really admire it, and I think out of all of the films we're going to talk about today, it's probably in tandem with the film Friendship the most, I think, in its themes. Although I think the comedy's much better deployed in Banshees of Inisherin than Friendship. But good film. Really, really. I think it's one of those films that had an awards buzz and has died down. Nobody talks
you don't
about
hear
it
a lot about it anymore.
No, it's worth talking about because it's better than most, I think.
Yeah, it's annoying that I sort of keep forgetting about it, and people mention, I always have that in the kind of like a watch list in my mind, but it keeps dropping off.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I'd give it a watch.
Nothing, to do with the film or anything. It's just
I think the trailer made it look like kind of a simple, like the joke. It's a one joke movie, and the joke is that he just abandoned his mate. And it didn't help.
Marketing, isn't it? It's just, often they get to simplify a film to its base elements, don't they?
Yeah, it's just the film does also kind of devolve a little bit into sort of a quite nasty violence by the end of it, but it's all as a result of the breakdown of this relationship, which is quite interesting. So I would watch it, and I would implore anyone listening or watching to watch it. Which was the one you wanted to discuss? What's that Blu-ray you have there? All of a sudden.
You're breaking it. You're breaking the magic. They're having a good peer in now, aren't they?
Oh, apologies if you were going to do a gag and I've ruined it.
I had nothing. Too hot and sweaty for that, as you can probably tell. This one, I don't know if it's going to show on the. My French pronunciation is I was going to say escapes me. I've never had
Claire Denis, isn't it?
Claire Denis, yeah.
Look her up.
Beautravail.
That's it. Yeah.
Rather shockingly, something I hadn't seen till very recently. But I thought it was interesting to mention the context, particularly of war films, because this film is about a group of French Foreign Legion soldiers in Africa.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, obviously, like a lot of Africa, carved up by European powers.
Yep.
Many of which, if not sort of obviously under the sort of the rule of those countries anymore, still have a presence. There's still a presence there.
Yeah, a lot, especially the French with North Africa. Right?
Yeah, so it's just about this group of French Foreign Legion soldiers, and the leader of the group takes a shine to a particular recruit. But it's sort of implied that it's more of like a sort of sexual.
Right, okay.
But it's the kind of his role as a leader, in a sort of military setting, is obviously at odds with the kind of expression of genuine emotion and feeling.
Right,
and it sort of manifests into quite a cruel and like a cruel sort of obsessive sort of campaign of oppression that he launches against this individual.
Wow.
But it's kind of like it's a movie. It's a very sort of silent film in the sense. I mean, there is dialogue, but the dialogue isn't necessarily. It's not like a propulsive narrative driving thing. It's dialogue that's just, that sort of expresses the daily reality of what they're doing there. So they're training, they've got routines. There's also a lot of boredom.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And
out of that tends to manifest some pretty interesting masculine behaviour, doesn't it?
Particularly within the context of the military, and also the way in which, like sort of leading figures try and inspire kind of loyalty and the kind of desired traits, physicality and all that kind of stuff. Like, and it's just so many like really beautiful scenes, even if sort of thematically they're quite sort of sad and quite difficult.
Yeah, okay.
Visually, the film is just so striking, like scenes of all these kind of half-naked men just digging these pointless holes, in the desert. Something very striking. Yeah. And then you've got the kind of, the sort of colonized people watching them from behind cages. It's just this very, it sort of interweaves sort of masculinity with colonialism, the colonial experience.
Yeah, okay.
And of the colonized and the colonizer, which is something that Denny does quite a lot. A few of her films, particularly at the start of her career, are very much about that, because I think her father, I don't know if she was born in Senegal, but she lived in parts of Africa for quite a lot of her life when she was growing up.
Right, okay.
So I think she has a kind of feeling for that.
That's really interesting, actually.
And a perspective that she doesn't glorify in any way.
Yes.
And her style of filmmaking is very much, you infer a lot from the kind of the framing and the composition and the kind of stolen glances, and it's very much sort of open to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've done a pretty terrible job explaining it, but
I don't know. I thought it sounds intriguing.
But it's a really it has a real mystical quality to it, and it completely, it really kind of I don't know. There's just something about that kind of filmmaking style which is a really, really difficult thing to pull off, because people try it and sometimes it just comes across as like naff and pretentious.
Probably a lot of men probably try it.
Yeah. Whereas Denis has just complete mastery of that style of filmmaking, and it's particularly those kind of longing glances that are sort of brief, but they just communicate so much about. And it's even if the kind of sergeant who he ultimately does something quite horrible to this man he has a sort of infatuation with, you kind of feel for him, because no one can express their kind of true feelings about where they are, what they're doing, and something as simple and as sort of being attracted to someone. Even it by the pure virtue that it kind of clashes with the sort of expected norms in the military, and the way in which you're expected to kind of forego all of that in servitude to things that you might not even be that supportive of.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a really, really great movie, and really worth a go for anyone, really.
It sounds like a really extreme example of that kid at school who fancies someone and they're cruel, they're horrible to them. You know what I mean? Like when, I don't know, having not seen the film and not knowing of its content. But it's an interesting idea, like the idea that you could in order to capture someone's attention, you would outwardly, and also perhaps in the case of this film, to be seen as well balanced within the sort of society that you're, and the kind of militaristic society that you're inhabiting, you kind of lash out and almost overcompensate, trying to. I guess the themes of having not seen the film. The kind of themes are like, obviously this guy's attracted to this other bloke. It's sort of...
It's heavily implied. I mean, again, in the spirit of the film, there's very little sort of... Nothing's particularly concrete at all in any of it. And that's the beauty of this film and a lot of her films, is that, you kind of...
You can infer over time.
Yeah, and it kind of invites you to sit among it in a way that not a lot of films can do.
Right, okay.
And I'm not saying every film has to do that, obviously, but like if you want a movie that's going to really kind of wash over you and you kind of almost sink into it, I think this is that sounds a perfect example of it.
Oh yeah, that sounds really good. I really like the striking poster as well.
Yes, and it is a beautifully shot film. It treats this subject matter with a real sort of delicateness.
Yeah, okay.
But it doesn't detract from the potency of what could be a kind of searing critique of kind of, masculine roles within the military, and indeed how those intertwine with sort of colonial attitudes and dominance and all of those things, which again are kind of intrinsically linked to the masculine experience. So from a critical perspective, I should say. Temporarily possessed by Sean Connery there. I don't know. It's worth a go. Really good.
Nice. Have you seen? I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this one as well, actually. But Waitemama Tambian.
Yes, but a long time ago.
Yeah, I was just briefly.
That's kind of like a student, sort of like a and I don't mean this in a way to discredit the movie, but when we talk about this kind of first world cinema films you watch,
right? Okay,
like Amelie and City of God and La
It's
Haine,
yeah.
in that category,
Totally,
right?
yeah.
But not in a way that means that any of those films are bad. They're all great movies. But
yeah. It is. It's an introduction to films with subtitles.
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
It's one of the first, definitely one of the first I watched, actually. Yeah, it is very good, and it has a kind of exploration of masculine identity. In contrast to the film we were just discussing, in this one, it's a lack of oppression, with a kind of freedom, and a road trip film.
Right, yeah.
And there's a love triangle, very obvious, but not explicitly stated, but pretty damn obvious that both of these blokes fancy this girl that they've gone on a road trip with, and they can't tell each other that, but they can. And she knows it as well, and she's kind of stringing them along. But there's so many wonderful moments where they're kind of battling for her, but they're also really good friends.
Right.
Just some wonderful scenes, and it culminates at the end in a sort of act of homosexuality, which is really like in the context of the film might sound a bit strange considering what they're sort of vying for. It's a very obvious, but very quite oddly sweet moment between them. And there's an epilogue at the film which explains that they've drifted apart, and you're kind of weirdly gutted for them. And they kind of meet in a cafe, and everything's normal again. Yeah, very kind of stereotypical coming of age type thing.
The idea being that you have this kind of potentially life-altering, liberating moment, and but it's contained to a certain time and a certain space.
Yeah.
And then when you leave that time, when that time goes behind, so when you leave that time behind and that space, you can't go back to that. Because of the situation, the place you live. I think Moonlight is a great example of that.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah.
It's funny, I was just, on social media, a lot of the accounts I follow are all like scenes from movies, and it was just that scene of, is it Chiron, when he's older and he's this big, muscular sort of, chap, but he's still obviously just completely besotted with that person he has that young man at the time he has a sexual experience with, and he meets him and he tells him that he hasn't been with anyone else, and the vulnerability in that moment is just it's one of those moments you can feel that coming out of the screen, sort of reverberating between the characters and you in the audience. There's so many moments like that in that film. But,
it's beautiful.
It really is. And it just reminded me of that, the idea that like, because they have that moment of intimacy and Moonlight on the beach, don't they?
Yeah.
And that was the last time he's ever been in any kind of sexual activity.
Yeah.
And he's almost having to fulfill this kind of role that is sort of prescribed to him by his sort of experience and his environment.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just he kind of, to see that vulnerability in that context and the ideas of masculinity more broadly, it's really beautiful, I think.
It's the same thing happens in like Brokeback Mountain as well. There's that inevitability that they can't sort of have a life together, and there's some great, really raw scenes in that. And that film came out at an odd time. It came out a lot, before, I suppose, a time in which Moonlight can be kind of revered in and just accepted as a sort of normal film. It was quite often, Brokeback Mountain was quite often tossed aside by my generation because you're at school, aren't you, and you're just an idiot and you don't really understand the complexity of relationships. And I saw it again quite recently, and it is actually, it really holds up. It's really touching, and it's not forced, and it doesn't really, again, like these films work best when there's no sort of scene that stands out from the rest. Every scene is crucial, and every scene is inviting you into why things end up the way they do, and it's not like a kind of blowout moment with like a really quotable bit. Like, it is kind of like every scene just sort of is so crucial to the feeling you get at the end. And quite often in the case of these films, it's one of tragedy, as is the case with Moonlight, and like more so with Brokeback Mountain, because it involves intolerance, and ultimately one of the characters has decided to pursue this lifestyle more openly, and he, in that particular period of time in America, he unfortunately pays the ultimate price for it. and it's so good. I don't know what. Yeah, just off the back of Moonlight, I'm starting to remember these sort of moments in Brokeback Mountain, which are
It's kind of they're at odds with the archetype, which is like an environmental archetype.
yes,
Right,
yes.
so we talk about the idea in Moonlight is kind of the gangster, right?
Yeah.
In Brokeback Mountain, it's the cowboy.
Yes.
Symbols of masculinity, images.
Shepherds and-
yeah. You know, like we'd say this a lot about the cowboy, particularly, and I think that's why Brokeback Mountain is such an important film in this particular context. Is that the cowboy is a symbol of American masculinity.
Yeah.
And it's still an image that is held, and my partner Georgia, she's watching a lot of that Yellowstone.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's not,
Kevin Costner, isn't it?
I mean, it's not. It's I don't know.
It's not for everyone, I guess.
No,
Yeah,
it's not really my cup of tea. Don't get me wrong. I love a western.
yeah.
But the film is just the obsessive over that imagery, the iconography, or the series, I should say. It doesn't mean that it doesn't sort of explore it. I've not seen enough to kind of like say with any certainty about how the film handles it, but certainly the imagery and iconography is kind of like foundational.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's still something that's very much in the zeitgeist that exists now.
Yes.
And obviously, it has origin in America's roots. Obviously, a totally kind of like factually and historically inaccurate.
right.
But at the end of the day, that's what the power of culture, right? It can completely obscure reality and the realities of the time in favor of this iconic image.
Yeah.
And in the context of masculinity, and certainly in the context of homosexuality, which in I guess in a lot of traditional societies is seen as almost an affront to masculinity.
Yes. Yeah. Especially in this portion of time in America, it was.
And even
There's
in
no
circles
question.
now, it's,
completely.
It's not
Yeah.
something that's in the rearview mirror entirely, right?
Yeah, no, I think you raise a good point about the kind of stereotypical American image being a huge part of that film, and I think it's funny because the traditions and the kind of story beats, I should say, are actually very, very old. Like it kind of starts with sort of Romeo and Juliet, right? The sort of star-crossed lovers thing, and like there's a reason they can't be together. It's because there's an established set of societal rules which keep them apart, and no matter how hard they try to counteract those rules, they will always win because they're outnumbered, and it's just a retelling of that, really. But and to kind of modernize it in the way and introduce effectively a kind of the idea isn't warring families anymore, it's bigotry that keeps people apart. That's just so heartbreaking and so like much more relevant, I think, today than sort of warring families, which maybe in the 15th century was a huge problem. But no, I had to mention those films. I didn't actually think about them until we kind of started spitballing. But really, really good to talk about those ones, I think. I had to sort of there's a kind of shout out, I suppose, to much slightly lighter territory, the American comedy. And the way that that tackles not just comedy, actually. We were talking about Punch Drunk Love before we.
One of my all-time favourites.
Oh yeah, I'd love to talk about that film. I kind of have to mention Superbad. I quite like that film.
Okay, yeah.
Just in the set that you think it's about two chaps trying to get off with girls, and it ends up being about them just realising that they are. Drifting apart, yeah, and that's the kind of there's an underbelly which doesn't reveal itself until the end. You're like, fucking hell, that film really became about them two, and it's all the more rewarding for it. Iloveyouman, which is another Paul Rudd starring film about sort of male friendships. The kind of conceit of that is that I think there's a kind of stereotypical American man who doesn't have any male friends, and he's sort of doting after his wife.
Right.
Yeah. It's all very surface level, but.
It's interesting with American comedies, and I think I've expressed this slight. I have a slight issue with. I don't know, like a lot of these kind of American style comedies, like those kind of things, with those kinds of actors. Like, think about something like Knocked Up, for example, or maybe not Knocked
Judd
Up,
Apatow.
Yeah, those kind of things. Like the male characters start the film as these kind of juvenile men children.
Good point, because
they always start like that, and they end up they are rewarded in the film narratively by the notion that they become serious. so they get a good job.
Yeah.
And I always think that's, I mean, obviously, like, you know, I get that that kind of attitude can be quite sort of, it can be very draining for people that are around you in your kind of, in your orbit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these characters, obviously it's amped up to 11 for comic effect, but they tend to be totally inept and unable to kind of, there's a sort of, you know, they're very puerile and they can't hold down anything. So it's obviously going to have sort of a ripple effect that's going to affect the people around them. But I always find it quite strange that these characters are just rewarded by doing what everyone else has done. Rank and file, you know, just point, you know. And again, like, I'm not saying that, you know, the film should celebrate those kinds of people, but the characters they are beforehand, but the transition always just seems that it kind of like changes them a lot to quite just boring sort of worker drones.
I
don't know. Is that something?
No,
am I thinking far too much to Judd Apatow films?
No, I don't. I think the attempt is to introduce seriousness in the sense that, like, I suppose that you do have to take something seriously. In the case of Knocked Up, he's having a baby, so there's responsibility.
Of course, in that context. So maybe it's not the best example.
No, I think you're right, though. I think there is, with that comes a stripping of personality, and by the end they are kind of a bit bland. It
enforces like a set of societal norms which some people find quite oppressive. Like, and we all have moments, and I'm certainly one of those people that can be like, fuck's sake. But I mean, obviously there's lots to be thankful for, but I just think that, you know, there's almost kind of this kind of reinforcement. And no, this is the right thing to do. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit much, but
no. I think you are right in that there's a trajectory there in a lot of these films which end up in quite a boring place, and boring's watering it down too much, but it does seem to me like they either get married or get a job, or like the ending is meant to be them driving off into the sunset, and the happily ever after exists in a kind of almost nuclear family, as opposed to a freedom which they kind of had before. Like maybe they could grow up a bit, but that doesn't mean they have to subscribe.
It doesn't mean they have to sacrifice everything, and sort of. Which I think is an interesting friendship, is a particularly interesting in the sense it's a continuation of that. I like to think, like someone that has kind of surrendered to all these things because that's what everyone else has done, and that creates its own sort of, you know, there's something very torturous about that. In classics and a boy style, we'll get to that later.
I think it's funny, maybe Judd Apatow et al. Have a fondness or nostalgia for their past to the extent where they love to revisit it, but also like to tell themselves that it's never going to be like that again, and maybe there's something slightly troublesome about the way that comes.
I just think there's a bit of bitterness, and maybe I can be, you know, there's a bit of bitterness. I think, you know, whenever you look back to your youth, you know, I think you're always going to be a bit like, you know, there's always going to be, and again, you know, you're always going to look back in a way that completely obscures all of the shit, boring stuff. But but like, you know, it's but it makes it feel like they're rules. Like, oh no, you can't go out and do that anymore. You can't do this anymore. It's like,
why not?
You could. You know what I mean? You could. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not that, and by doing it, you're not kind of. It's not. You know, you're not an affront to this adult version of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, and you're not regressing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah.
No, I like it.
Take that, Judd.
I didn't think about it in that way.
Yeah, it just sort of really bothers me. Like, every single one of those films, the ending is, I've got wife, kids, and a job I really don't like. The end. Oh, great, you're happy, are you?
I
don't think you look happy. That looks shit. Not that happy kids can't be, and you know, sometimes you just have to fucking do things you don't like, and that's obviously something we you know, we have to accept to a degree. But I don't know, films enforce that idea that we have to accept, and I don't know. Maybe it's sort of a bit utopian, but I don't think we should have to accept those things necessarily.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I think like I Love You Man is an interesting one, partially because of its relationship with friendship. I think Paul Rudd effectively is playing playing the Jason Segel character in that film.
Right.
The freewheeler, the kind of the guy who has all the answers, the Ferris Bueller of it all.
Right.
He's kind of. I mean, Friendship explores that a bit more deeply, but in this film, Jason Segel is like a kind of just doesn't. He's kind of a.
Is that the film where he has like his own? He's like he has like a wank. There's a lot of jokes about him wanking all the time.
Potentially, yeah. I actually can't remember those, but he's sort of
maybe it was a fever dream. But
he's kind of like the dude in the Big Lebowski. He's sort of a layabout.
That's a great example. Of
but like it's portrayed quite positively. It's kind of just like he is free of any anxiety. He has it all figured out somehow, and his philosophy comes seemingly out of nowhere. And sometimes the philosophies are sort of stupid but make sense, and other times they're quite profound. And he's almost like a Christ-like figure of just being a layabout. And
does he get unmasked? Like the way Sting does in Quadrophenia. That is a tragic scene.
It's fucking hell.
When he's the bellboy and he runs out and because he's this cool mod, isn't
I
he?
forgot I saw that. I have seen that. I completely. I need to watch that again. He's more like he isn't criticised, but Paul Rudd is at odds with that lifestyle, and he's more kind of stuck up. He's actually more just like a normal guy. He's more like Cameron in Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
right?
An actual human, right?
But Cameron, you could argue, sort of like a product of that kind of those kind of philosophies and ideas being jammed into someone at too young an age. And he's like just a ball of anxiety. You can't cut loose. Who can't enjoy life because he's already got one eye on this future that could be, destroyed by his freewheeling sort of mate.
That's it. And it's Paul Rudd being that character at odds with Jason Segel's kind of. Yeah. And eventually it all marries up in the end.
I think he does make a lot of wank jokes.
Probably, yeah.
Come back to me.
There's a weird recurring joke in it about him saying in a kind of with Jamaican inflection, slap at the bass, and everyone thinks he sounds like a leprechaun.
Right.
It's a strange joke in it.
Is Paul Rudd an estate agent?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen this film.
There's a...
Yeah. And they're like liberating forces at first, aren't they? Those kind of characters.
Yeah.
Like, they appear as these, like you say, these kind of like Christ-like deified figures who are like cast an ethereal light that blasts away all the monotony.
Yeah.
But the films have to make their lives look shit in the end to justify everything else that happens. Yeah.
That's exactly it. He's that character. It happens in Pineapple Express as well.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. There's a layabout and there's a kind of... And there's someone who is usually the main character who's more relatable but more anxious. It's just that, really. And Friendship as a film kind of posits to be that at the start and then takes it to somewhere else, really. Which I did find quite interesting.
I liked that about it. It's interesting that you mentioned, just quickly before we go into Friendship.
Of course,
Big Lebowski. I think he's like one of the few true examples of that kind of layabout. I mean, obviously the layabout is something that's, pioneered in a lot of those kind of like 60s, 70s New Hollywood films, and you saw a revival in the 90s with Linklater and Slacker, that kind of thing, But I think that, the dude is kind of probably one of the most positive examples of that kind of masculine figure. Well, a figure that seems seemingly unconcerned by that. You could argue there's some slight dodgy stuff, I guess, in the context of him and Julianne Moore's relationship, but I think broadly speaking, he's someone that he's not interested in being like a provider or anything. He's just coasting. And that attitude serves this kind of send up to the noir film really, really well. Puts him at odds with the kind of the shady machinations of the corporate elite or the kind of like maniacal ramblings of John Goodman's Vietnam veteran or the kind of much ignored and ultimately tragic character that Steve Buscemi plays, Donnie.
That's right.
So like, I don't know. I just thought it was a little brief aside.
No, I think it's important.
I admire the film for that. He doesn't end up getting a job at the end.
Yes,
like that's the winning thing for him, that he gets a job, and it's like, he's still the dude, and he's going to do what the dude abides. He does what he thinks is best.
There's a philosophy which is seen through, isn't there? It's not countered,
and it's captivating.
It works. It does work in
Love
that
a layabout.
film. Definitely, yeah, that's a good example of one. I think it's more difficult when they're used as a kind of like this sort of the aspirational figure that ends up getting deconstructed and made more complicated. It's kind of like more of a stereotype. So yeah, good to see it done differently, I suppose. In well, way before any of the other films we've been talking about. Yeah. That's all the films I have to talk about. I had a few more that actually I don't think should make the list. They're not really about male friendships. They're just about, like, Call Me By Your Name isn't really about male friendships, it's about a male romance, whereas the films we did talk about are a bit more complicated.
Well, I'll tell you what does have male friendship in it. Friendship.
Oh, that film.
Yeah,
I saw that recently.
Yeah, so did I last week.
Yeah.
I did it in a double bill, actually. I did a double bill day. Was it last week?
With a naked gun as well.
Yeah, I saw Naked Gun first, and then I walked to the watershed in the rain and got absolutely fucking soaked.
Oh. From Showcase?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's quite
Well,
far.
I've not got a lot on at the moment, so I thought I might as well.
Stick your iPod in.
Yeah.
Well, not an iPod, it'll be your phone these days, Spotify.
Yeah,
I say iPod. I don't know.
But yeah, it was a comedy-filled day, which I haven't done for a while.
Oh, cool.
I've not watched like a comedy film. I mean, Naked Gun's a far more overt comedy than Friendship is, but it was. Yeah, I was thinking it's rare that there's comedies out in the cinema.
True. Yeah, they're usually
really
stuck on Amazon, aren't they?
Yeah.
I watched it, and I immediately, I watched it quite a while ago because I was going on holiday and I knew we weren't going to be recording for a while.
Yeah.
So I recorded my instant reaction after seeing it,
Yeah.
and evidently I didn't enjoy it that much.
Yeah, we were listening to it as we were setting up.
Yeah.
And you were quite scathing.
Yeah, I think I was, because I'll say it now, and I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but Tim Robinson. Really, I struggle with his comedy, and I struggle with the way he's very maniacal, and he's a man child. The thing is, he's like a man child, I think, and he does it in all of the sketches. He sort of plays the same bloke, and obviously in Friendship, he's literally playing the same bloke. But there's just a weird, like, off kilter. I found it quite alienating.
Okay.
But the content. So whoever writes for him is really funny. And I don't know if he's involved in the writing process. Maybe he is. But if so, he's a very talented writer.
Shouldn't we?
No, who knows? Yeah.
Should we check? Let me have a look. No, it was written by the same chap that directed it, Andrew DeYoung.
Right, okay. So I don't know if he's worked with him in the past, but basically...
I'm not getting my phone out again.
No. It's like it's filled with some good stuff, like good comedy moments. But the way Tim Robinson plays it, like, really grates on me. I don't think he's that funny.
Okay.
Just think his style and his shouty style is almost like reminiscent of like Harry Hill. It's like really just like, oh, fuck off.
I quite like Harry Hill as well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big collar. What, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Funny, because I know what you mean. Like, I often think about him in Harry Hill when I'm in the shower. No, I think about him quite a lot in the context of, like, I'm quite fussy about comedians, particularly English ones.
Yeah, okay.
And this is going to sound really disrespectful to the profession of comedy, and I'm nowhere near funny or brave enough to stand up and do a comedy set. So, that's my way of saying, look, even if I don't like you, I respect that you go up.
Yeah.
But I'm quite fussy with English comedy, and I think a lot of it is because I often think that the sort of caliber of it is not that too dissimilar from the people I know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the kind of jokes.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Whereas, like, someone like Harry Hill, I quite like because there's some kind of, he's quite off the wall.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And he kind of wallows in like he kind of picks apart that kind of lowbrow English culture in a way that I think is really great.
Okay. I can't get past the big collar and that shit. I don't know. I just like... I think there's something that's like a mental block which prohibits me from delving deeper into why he's successful.
Yeah.
Because at face value, it's like quite hard for me to... It's like looking at the sun. It's like I just can't really get
past the collar.
Yeah, no, and that's my shame. Problem. Yeah, but the same thing with Tim Robinson. It's just like, stop shouting, mate. please. Like,
Right.
I just don't think it's suitable for the situation you're in. There's a good example in one of his sketches. The idea is he's going to a drive-through and he says, "Oh, I'll pay for the next person's meal."
Oh,
He's
yeah.
trying to start a chain. Funny, right? I like that. It's like
Yeah.
a pay it forward chain, and it's like a good concept. But he starts shouting in it, and I'm just, you don't need to, like, the comedy's there. Play it straight. Like, I think I like deadpan stuff and maybe a little bit more than you, perhaps. Not that I think you don't like it, but like, I think it it could benefit from that deadpan and that kind of like just rein it in a bit, I think, for him.
Okay.
And I think Friendship could have been a much better film had he done that.
Interesting. Okay.
For me, maybe only for me, because evidently a lot of people I've spoken to thought it was really good and really clever, and there's maybe something to it, to his maniacal stuff, that I just can't see past personally.
Yeah.
That was my initial thoughts, really.
Right.
And I have a couple of quibbles about the plot as well, and the way the plot unfurls. Is it kind of, and we talk about this quite a bit. A24 can't help themselves. They have to be different. They have to do something horrendous and outrageous. And in this, they kind of play with time. Time starts going by very, very fast in this, and it's almost like you've missed 3 scenes.
Right.
And then there's the next scene plays out, and then you've missed 3. It's like, I don't know how it's going from A to E to G. Like, where's the connect? There's no connective tissue. That was the other problem I had with it. I found it quite baffling and confusing by the end. I didn't really know what was going on, and I think that's a kind of an A24 thing.
Okay.
And then it veered into experimental too much by the end, and it didn't start like that. It started quite straight. Had a really good start, actually. I thought the start was set it up to be something that it never really delivered.
Right.
Sorry, that was huge amounts of words. I'm sorry. That's too much Ben talking.
Not at all.
What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that it feels like a kind of a more prolonged or sort of extended version of the kind of things he does in his sketch shows.
Yeah.
Or sketch show.
Yeah. I think you should leave, isn't it? That's what.
Yeah. And I think it definitely feels like that. And I think in the sense of the way it treats time.
Okay, interesting.
Do you know that sketch-like thing? Like, obviously, sketches are obviously by their nature.
They're very episodic.
Yeah, episodic, sort of small vignettes. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's obviously something that kind of slightly dogs the narrative's coherency a little bit.
Yeah.
But in response to what you're saying about that maniacal energy, I think there's something about the way Tim Robinson approaches those kind of grey corporate and domestic spaces, which I think is quite refreshing in comedy.
Okay, yeah.
I think he kind of bottles things up, this sort of fizz, this energy, all this sort of unspoken pain and frustration and bleakness.
Yeah.
And it's Tim Robinson that just pops the cork.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that there's, you know, what you're saying, there isn't something to what you're saying. I do remember there was a few scenes where it was like, bloody hell, this is going on a bit. But I think broadly speaking, he's really, really good at kind of unpicking, also just, I guess, languishing. Like, you know, I noticed a lot in this film, there are a lot of scenes that just go on so much longer than they should, and that's deliberate. The camera's almost shuddering in dismay, you know, and
it's very cringe. It's cringe,
yeah. And it's something that obviously it's not never been done before. But I think if we go back to what we were saying earlier about the idea that's sort of central to the sort of rebirth of central characters, and a lot of kind of Judd Apatow or Judd Apatow adjacent comedies, is the lead character accepts, you know, what everyone, you know, that he has to do what everyone else is doing to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, this guy is someone that has done that, and the worlds that he inhabits are full of people that have done that, and they are desperately unhappy and struggling and bored in their sort of, you know, bored professionally, bored romantically.
Yeah.
All of these things and all of these kind of pressures, you know, not as omnipresent as obviously the pressures facing the characters in Brokeback Mountain, for example.
No.
But, you know, they are there and they exist, and there's a sort of a weight to them in terms of the kind of impact it will have on your life, the quality of your life, the company you keep, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I just think he doesn't really. There's something interesting about the way he handles that.
Okay.
And I think his maniacal energy, like I say, is the kind of tipping point.
Right. Yeah.
It's
He's got quite a short fuse.
Yeah. Like why can't why is it this way?
Right. Yeah.
And obviously a lot of his interactions and a lot of his behaviour is insane.
Yeah. The gun.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean that's obviously taking it into the realms of extreme, which is something, as you say, he does a lot.
Yes.
But I think broadly speaking that, I am in agreement with you that the opening of the film was really great. And I broadly speaking enjoyed the whole movie, but I thought in terms of as a sort of experiment in that, in what I was just talking about, the sort of first three quarters particularly worked quite well for me in that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So his maniacal nature is justified, or at least has more to it than just him being stupid for the sake of it, for the sake of trying to generate laughs.
I think so. Yeah, and I think that's why he's so popular.
He's very successful and popular. Even in England, with Dan and Alfie introduced me to him.
Yeah.
And I feel a bit bad, but at the time I kind of pretended like I liked it.
Right.
And actually,
We've all been there.
I did like it. I liked the scenarios he was in every sketch, which is quite rare because usually there's, it's up and down, isn't it, with sketch shows. But that him as a personality, I was like, this isn't working for me at all.
Right.
And I felt quite sort of scared to admit that because they were enjoying him so much and they were taking delight in the kind of, in these big gestural moments that he was doing. And I was like, sat there like, ooh, why is this not working for me? And I did actually watch a couple of his episodes on my own as well, thinking, maybe I was just in the wrong mood or something, which is a thing.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes you're just not in the mood for someone like bellowing at you, but then and I had the same reaction again.
Right.
I was like,
okay.
And then I saw this, and again I was like, I can't get past something here. But it doesn't, the film isn't without merit. Like I did really I liked the relationship between them two and how it breaks down, and how it's almost like Paul Rudd invites the chaos back into his life and he is invigorated by it, but then paradoxically it's that chaos which pushes him away. The philosophy his sort of freewheeling philosophy turns out to be false, doesn't it?
I think that's one of my favourite things about the film.
Okay.
In the sense that we talked about Iloveyouman, and obviously is it Jason Segel's character. Rudd's inhabiting that space.
Yes, yeah.
So Rudd's character in this is that he's a kind of, again, someone doesn't really, the way he looks at life is at least on superficially in stark contrast to people that have surrendered to a life.
Throw your phone away, kind of thing.
The suburbia, the corporate world, all those things. He's positioned himself, at least, as I say, superficially in a kind of opposition to that.
Yeah.
And he kind of, they break into City Hall together.
That's right,
via the aqueduct.
That's it, yeah.
And he's in a band, but, in like a punk band. And it's these are all kind of like very kind of surface level, but quite powerful signifiers for someone like Tim Robinson's character, who's lived this life kind of caged in these sort of environments and hamstrung by his obvious sort of social imperfections. And he sees someone living this kind of excess. And like you say, I think it unlocks that for him.
Yes.
But of course, once it opens, it pours out of him in a way that is totally alienating for everyone else around him.
Including me.
But what I thought was interesting is that even though the characters around him play quite a pivotal role by upholding these kind of attitudes and behaviours in unlocking that, they still can't see that. So they push him away because, understandably, he can't control it and his behaviour becomes extreme.
Yeah.
But like the scene in the garage, for example, there's a few scenes in the garage in this film. I guess the garage is seen.
Yes, it's the one where he.
It's the kind of, it's a place of the men go, isn't it?
Yeah,
to drink beers or fix cars or play their instruments.
Each other.
Exactly. Like, it's like this sort of space away from the kind of, it's like once you're in there, like nothing can touch this. You know?
Yes,
it's
yeah.
just this small space that even for an hour, I can just be free from it all.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he meets Paul Rudd's friends, and after he walks into the back door and smashes them.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, that is fucking funny. I don't know if you remember when we went to. It reminded me of something I did. Do you remember when we went to? It was the day before Alfie's wedding.
Yeah.
And we were in the jacuzzi and drinking, and I got out and obviously quite woozy, and I walked straight. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I was so shocked. I could have sworn that was. So I could have, as someone that's done that, I felt a great deal of sympathy for him there. And obviously you guys laughed, but we're very gracious about it, unlike Paul Rudd's friends were. But to be fair, it didn't smash like it did in the film, so maybe that's justifiable. But you can already tell they're uncertain about Tim Robinson's character. But they put him in a situation where it's never not going to go wrong. They force him to kind of. He has this kind of vague, sort of approximate view of what this kind of masculine, the kind of bloke they want him to be.
Yeah.
And they have a little punch up, and Paul Rudd digs him a couple of times, and it obviously looks quite painful.
Yeah.
And then he sucker punches Paul Rudd and knocks him out, and that's not great. But they've created the conditions for him.
Yeah.
And then they push him away. So you can sort of understand why someone of him and of his makeup, and obviously in the world that they've created for his character. Yeah. Because a lot of that world is built to service Tim Robinson's style.
Oh yeah.
I kind of feel a sort of a degree of, and that degree sort of slips away as the film goes on, as he becomes more insane. But even then, I just feel a bit sorry for him that he's being led into these situations that he and they push him away when he takes it too far.
Yeah, it's catch-22 for him, isn't it? He can't not react in it. He can't really save himself from it, can he? I suppose, and that is the idea that he's almost acting. He's acting out, but he's going down an inevitable path. I think.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily his fault. It's a spiraling, and that is interesting, and that is the majority of the film as well. Yeah, I think the film, to its credit, examines the sort of way men might react to that scenario a lot more than the friendship itself. Like it spends a great deal of time with Tim Robinson's character being alone and dealing with the ramifications of what not just like you say what he's done, but what other people have done to him. He's very isolated, and you do feel sorry for him. Yeah, and you want him. The problem for me is like I really wanted him to crawl back out of this. And he never does, and that's the idea, isn't it? The idea that he's just digging a hole for himself. And it kind of culminates in a great deal of scenes, but one of the ways in which that happens is he tries to impart this sense of the kind of the freewheeling nature of Paul Rudd's character onto his wife, and they go to the aqueduct, but then she goes missing. Yeah, and then when she eventually returns, they have a party for her, and he doesn't like the attention that is being paid to her at the expense of him,
particularly by like a group of men that are clearly sort of fishing around.
They've recognised that he might be punching, basically.
And the fact they've also recognised that she's unhappy. And it's interesting that one of the particular men is a fireman, very handsome, and it's again those kind of stereotypes are very oppressive for men like him.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Because you're always going to feel immediately inadequate in comparison to them. Yeah.
Especially because like his interests are like he sort of talks about Marvel, doesn't he? Quite a lot. Like, there's meant to be a new Marvel out, and like his interests are very, I guess, sort of in a way you could kind of call them without gender. Really, his interests are sort of quite bland and all encompassing. The kind of thing that everyone could potentially get on with if they're bored. That's the kind of stuff that he really cherishes, and being introduced to a masculine world where it's a lot more extreme is kind of he struggles with that, doesn't he? Yeah, he kind of stands up on a chair and tries to to bring it back all towards him a little bit.
It's so excruciating.
It's so hard to watch. And
I
I don't
remember
mind.
when he's I'm terrible. I struggle with that a lot. Like I adore The Office, for example.
Okay, yeah.
But I can't get past some of those
Cringe.
moments.
Yeah. I don't mind it so much. Like, a lot of it's in Peep Show as well. Like,
God,
Peep
yeah.
Show is quite hard to watch for that reason, but I don't
it's
mind
great.
it.
Yeah, it's a huge part of what those series is, what those shows are about, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's interesting. I also think going back to Paul Rudd's character, because I think he's such a pivotal example of this kind of individual that you know that he's all too aware of the idiosyncrasies of Tim Robinson's character before he introduces him to his friends.
Yes.
So there's that bit where he helps him up the aqueduct and he's like shouting and screaming. Just he's obviously panicking, and again in that classic Tim Robinson style, very maniacal. Odd. That's an odd reaction.
Yes, yeah.
But Paul Rudd's quite sweet and accepting of his oddities and idiosyncrasies. It's only until he's with his friends that he realises that he can't be his friend.
Yeah,
and I think that's telling. That the idea that, about... And again, I'm not saying that Tim Robinson, if it was just those two, he wouldn't have torpedoed the friendship, because there's probably a good chance he would have done. But especially the trajectory the film puts him on. But... this idea that friendship is conditional again on your environment, and that your true self is something that is very rarely shown in situations like that, and in a way it might be that maybe Paul Rudd's character's doing it because I don't know, maybe like you feel sorry for him or something, but ultimately what he's doing for him is nice. It's a nice thing, showing someone attention that obviously hasn't had a lot of it in his life. It's but he can't extend that. Once his friends decide that he's weird, he can't do that anymore. And he pushes them away. So much of it is conditional on the framework of the kind of people you have around you and your environment. And I just thought that was interesting and worth mentioning very briefly.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it does handle that quite well, like the idea that you change when you're around a group of people,
and they influence your behavior and attitudes more than you probably care to admit. Like his friends all seem like quite stereotypical blokes, although there's that one really sort of weird scene where one of the guys is talking about his daughter who's developing quite rapidly, as a result is sort of having comments, and that's his way of opening up. So there's almost this clunky attempt to undermine like old school masculinity by opening up, and it's sort of met with a bit of awkwardness.
Yeah, that's right.
And they sing.
That's it.
They have that sort of sing along.
What do they sing? I can't
Sounds
remember.
like my fucking idea of hell. Personally,
what? I can't remember the song.
Yeah, it's obviously very iconic song that escapes both of us.
Yeah, no, and he attempts to join in, doesn't he? There's a lot of attempting to join in this, and it gets increasingly. Like he's not very good at social cues, is the Tim Robinson's character. So he continues to assume at first, and then try desperately to claw back what he had, not just with Paul Rudd, but other people as well, like
his colleagues at work.
He invites them round, doesn't he? And
they're just bullies and not very nice people.
They're not, the
kind of people that are thriving in the corporate environment because they're bullies. So there's that, again, something to go back to what Tim Robinson's very good at, I think, is in those corporate spaces, this kind of how masculinity intersects with ideas of success in the corporate world, being like a shark, which basically just means fucking other people over for your own personal gain.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And those men are obviously individuals that would do that to each other and to him and to anyone else if it meant that they could earn more and look good.
Yeah.
And, all the material benefits that come with that. I don't know, I thought that was quite interesting. I mean, he invites them back to the garage again, and then he tries to play his drums in front of them, and it's just horrible.
Yeah, it's excruciating.
Watch through sort of a cage of sweaty fingers for me, this film.
Oh man, okay, yeah. There's some stuff like with Kate Mara. I thought she was really good, and actually,
you're right. She grounds it.
She really does.
Yeah, you're right.
Some of the scenes with her were some of the best. There's a kind of lack of communication between them two, but also a kind of semi-sweetness. You can kind of believe how they might have got together at some point, but then
she settled, but it's because he's a steady pair of hands.
That's it. Yeah.
And and it's implied in the film that she has this kind of like fling with the fireman.
That's right. Yeah.
But she doesn't. she maybe gets the kind of the satisfaction in other ways, but there's obviously other things. There's like an everyday living with someone is different to like, do you know what I mean? And I think maybe that doesn't work for her. I'm kind of spitballing here, but it's implied because she comes back.
Yes, she does.
Spoilers.
Yes, she does. And he again like that. I think what this film does is it gives him moments of clarity. So he buys her the vehicle that she needs for her business.
Yeah.
And you're like, breath of fresh air. Okay, finally, we're back on track. Like I was really back gunning for him again, and I just knew. You could tell. I thought the film was going to end there, and it didn't. And he just fucking crashes it or something, doesn't he?
Well, as soon as you see that yellow car that Paul Rudd says he's going to own at some point.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it? And he just spirals again. I mean, maybe it's more of a kind of delving deep into mental instability than I perhaps gave it credit for initially, but again, it's this sort of it's hopping between stability and instability in a really uncomfortable way, and I struggle to reconcile with that. I think, especially in the third act, and that's maybe where I got the tonal inconsistency from. Was that kind of the devolution, followed by a period. It was like a graph that's just going wildly, waves. I don't know. Yeah, I have a really mixed feelings about it. I wouldn't be opposed to watching it again, and there were some really good, interesting moments in it. Like specifically, even though I when I recorded myself, I sort of criticised it for not showing enough of Paul Rudd's actual life, where he does have a phone and his weatherman job is kind of stressful. That is
belittled, and
all
those kind of power structures that he apparently, has no interest in, completely dominate him.
Total slave to them.
Yeah.
That was played.
That's the Sting quadrophenia moment, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So looking back, given
bring that back
enough
for some
time,
reason.
I think maybe
Sting on the mind.
I think I reacted a bit negatively towards it at the time, but actually, looking back on it, I can appreciate the subversion of the dude or the Jason Segel kind of type person, and the revelation that it's all just a kind of act.
Yeah.
Perhaps to garner the attention of Tim Robinson's character, or maybe just trying to kind of shallowly impress him. In a way, maybe Paul Rudd has always been a slight kind of show off and a bully, and obviously that is due to his own circumstance, right? Yeah. He's actually very in the middle of the pecking order.
Maybe that's another reason for why he is initially so friendly to him. Maybe it's not like altruism. Maybe it is just this guy's a loser.
Yeah.
I've got someone to show off to, because he can't show off to his other friends. They're kind of impervious.
They're on his level, if not slightly higher.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Thinking about it like that, that's another dimension. I like that.
Yeah. No, I didn't think about it at the time. But yeah, there is. I think films about masculinity need to explore that idea more. The idea of the pecking order, and the idea that
how it even infects something as sacred as friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all had that experience, I think, at school
or just adult life. I've been in situations where you're with a group of blokes that you don't know that well, and it's just immediately apparent they're so different to you in outlook, and things they like, and you make a choice. You either sit there and basically you're a mute for 3 hours, or you try and meet them at their level, and that can have mixed results. Because it's all dependent on your ability to kind of like, be a chameleon and sort of immerse yourself with a set of like ideas or beliefs that obviously are very trenchant in this friendship that you aren't privy to.
Yeah.
And and I have had times before where you walk away and think, why did I try and pander to this? That's how a lot of people do fucking shitty, stupid things. Really, I think is that kind of pressure as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially when
not that
alcohol's
justifies
involved.
what might happen, but I think there's a reason for that, right?
Yeah. It's an explanation, not an excuse, but you do see it, and everyone's guilty of it. I think not just men either. I think it can probably happen with anyone, really.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting, just the idea of anonymity. No, social circles and social hierarchies, and being introduced to a new one, and trying to navigate your way, and trying to desperately claw at like scraps of relatability.
Yeah.
I was at a wedding, so I was sat there and I was like, I can't fucking
You're fucked in a wedding because you can't just get up and go, no.
Yeah. Not for me.
I wish you could.
Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Just go, do you know what? I'll wait outside, get the
sit-
meal out of the way, and then I'll come back when I can talk to the people I actually want to talk to.
Let's go sit next to the bride. All right. I wasn't that keen on those guys, I'll be honest.
Yeah, childhood friends or not, they're a bunch of pricks.
Yeah.
I love the idea she's trying to cut the cake.
Just
saying it to her.
Just like motioning a brand new husband to be like, fucking who the fuck's this?
Weddings are that's a big part of the reason I can find them incredibly anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
Because it's those kind of conversations, and particularly when you're put with a group of people that you don't know, and if they're all unified by something, be it a profession or a long-standing friendship, you've got to try like crudely jam your way in, and all the fucking questions. What do you do?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! Like
what do I say? I say that like they're not going to care if I say something else? Maybe I should just say,
maybe you should just try and spice it up and lie.
Yeah, that could go either really well for you or really badly.
Yeah.
But at least it's more interesting than saying the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, and this film does examine that, and it examines how someone with quite extreme tendencies would react in that situation, which to mixed results for me, but kudos to it for exploring those avenues in a landscape which is largely kind of unconcerned with that sort of thing. I think so. Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, I think there's a conviction in the way it lingers in it. I think, which I think is particularly potent. And yeah, you're right. It does probe questions about masculinity in friendship and how those things can be really unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it can be really difficult, I think, the older you get, to kind of forge those actual meaningful connections.
Yes.
That are kind of unburdened by the need to be superior or to look up to or to belittle, Yeah, and that's probably, navigating them it can be a nightmare. And I think the film does a really great job of portraying that, if not being slightly overblown in part. And I know probably a bit more for you.
Yeah, that's just me. I'm weirdly happy that I found a film that I was quite willing to criticize, because I do have a tendency to see the good in films which perhaps deserve more criticism.
Right.
And so for this one, I was actually quite looking forward to laying into it a bit and just being honest about how I think about Tim Robinson. And I'm going to watch him. I'm going to continue to watch this space with him, because what you said was interesting about his navigating the corporate world, and also there just has to be something that I've missed, I think. But again, I won't be clamoring to watch what he's doing next, personally, anyway. Sorry, Tim.
It'd be interesting to see if he, I think with actors like him, or performers, I guess it's hard to see them breaking away from what it is that's put them on the map. Yes. And that attempt to do so, it can be like a Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love, or it could backfire. I think there's enough in the kind of quieter parts of his performance, like say the opening with him in the kind of, it's like the cancer survivors group.
Yeah,
he's quite, there's a real vulnerability in his performance there that I think if you could kind of take that and maybe not make a whole movie about that necessarily, but
no, but
you know what I mean? There is enough there, like there is enough in the little moments of quiet in Adam Sandler's, like obviously more overt comedies. That's what obviously Paul Thomas Anderson saw anyway.
Completely, yeah. No, that's funny. Yeah, there's moments of, there's flourishes of like a decent, what I consider to be a really decent, well-rounded performance in here, and it's just the extreme nature of what it devolves into, which was like kind of made me kind of put my guard up a little bit with it. So there we go.
Nice. Outro.
Questing the cinematic void. There we have it then.
Yep.
87. Nearly 100. 100 episodes. Holy.
Coming up.
It is, yeah.
I reckon there's a good chance it'll be towards the end of this year, right?
Yeah. Christmas sort of time, maybe.
I don't know, because usually we do weekly, don't we? It's only every now and again we don't.
Yeah, like there's been a lot going on with this.
How many weeks is there till Christmas?
Uh,
what? So it's August now, mid-August.
4
isn't it?
months. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
How many
7,
weeks
8,
is that?
9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Well, so might be before then.
Might be a bit before Christmas, yeah.
That's captivating stuff, I'm
Oh,
sure.
wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Still actually a ways to go, I suppose.
Yeah,
13 episodes is still quite a lot of episodes to do. So don't get too excited.
we sort of do want to do something different for it.
Yeah, I'd love
I'm not
to.
sure what, but we have to. 100.
100. We'll go to
Triple digits.
We'll go to Malta and film it on the beach. It'll be the most expensive podcast episode ever produced.
Yeah. Lapping tide. There's monkeys in Malta, isn't there?
Is there?
Or is that Gibraltar? That's Gibraltar.
Yeah. They filmed Gladiator in Malta. Though,
Oh, okay.
There we go. We could go and visit the Colosseum, but not in Rome, in Malta.
Okay.
Anyway, next week.
Yes. Weapons.
Yeah, it's at the moment. I really hope this stays. Loads of people are talking about it. It's done very well. Box office
Warner
wise.
Brothers, isn't it?
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
You'll notice a little cut there.
That's
because we have to check our phone and verify information.
Yeah.
So we don't want to spread misinformation.
No, God, no. Apparently, this film has signified a shift from Warner Brothers to focus more on original properties.
Okay.
That and Sinners. Sinners is Warner Brothers as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So I'm not checking my phone.
Fair play.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if anything, that's
It's a good sign, isn't
it's
it?
a good thing. I mean, there's no caveat.
I hope it's not in and of. I hope that isn't in and of itself a marketing push.
Yeah, I mean,
because David Zaslav's crafty, isn't he? Like, he's money hungry little. Just like, tell him there's going to be original stuff.
Yeah,
but I mean, if that means getting original stuff, then whatever.
Yeah, I haven't seen the director's previous film Barbarian either, so I will be watching that in the next couple of days. Then cinema trip. Sometime.
Nice. Yeah, I watched that in Italy actually. With Dan, and it's
he's
great.
A big fan of it, isn't he?
He's a huge fan. He shows it to everyone who comes. I'm probably generalising that. He probably doesn't show it to literally everyone, but yeah.
I remember him talking about it, and he's really good at making you want to watch something.
Yeah, and with this, it's certainly warranted. It's excellent, really good. I won't talk about it today. That'll be for next week. But I really got a kick out of it actually. Yeah,
obviously, huge horror fan. So that. We're kind of umming and ahhing about a topic to pair it with.
Yes.
Because we've talked about things like small town America. We've talked a lot about suburbia, particularly in relation to the horror, the slasher. So we're thinking about maybe kind of like the kind of more straight-laced horror experiences.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I haven't seen either of his films, but and maybe you can attest to this, but what I've read anyway is that he's kind of offering something different to the kind of like thematically dense A24 horror movies.
Okay, yeah.
Not that they don't have anything to them, but
it's an oversaturated market, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit before with A24. Obviously, they've got some bangers, and they have distributed many
a fine
movie, but there's been very much a push to have these kind of horror movies that are really sort of stuffed to the rafters with kind of like relatable thematic stuff.
Yeah. This is a good example. Barbarian is just a good example of it does have that element to it, and it veers off in a few different directions, but it has the central focus of the film is the monster effectively. That is what it all comes back to, no matter what, and that's quite good. That's what I liked about it. So
maybe more like monster-focused kind of horror movies would be a good thing to talk about.
Just focusing on the evil.
Really done, the idea of like a good sort of monster creature feature horror movie kind of discussion.
Yeah, let's do that. I like it. Creature features, like it.
Yeah. I mean, even if it doesn't really apply to weapons, I don't know.
Let's hope it does.
Even if it doesn't, fuck it. We're running out of topics.
We'll do it.
By the 100th episode, we're going to have nothing to talk about.
Just be called literally 100.
Yeah, it's just going 100. It's like 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Just like blowing those. What are they called? What are they?
Oh, what? They're like the party balloon things.
They're like, they sort of come out like a tongue. What are they called?
I can't remember. email in. I don't know. Why do I not know that? They've got a really well-known name. You see them
It's
at
not
kids.
Kazoo.
No, close. It's Kazoo-esque.
It's Kazoo adjacent.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the same kind of musical family. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, you're still here.
No worries.
In the meantime, where are we? Yeah. In the meantime, thank you for getting to the end of an episode. Always appreciated.
Cheers.
And we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.